Zapier is the go-to option for automating pretty much anything, as you can see from this text right here. The way Zapier works is pretty easy, and yeah, this image shows it pretty well. So let's get started with Zapier and automate our first task. So you have two options. You can either start with email for free, definitely, and also for free with Google. I will choose the start free with Google option because I think it's more convenient, but it's up to personal preference. So I will now create an account with Google and then see you on the other side. Now we've made it. We successfully created an account, and this is the first page we are prompted once we created an account. Now we have these questionnaires. These are some questions Zapier wants to know about us. This doesn't matter what answer you pick. It influences the recommendations Zapier gives you after the process is finished, but it's more important for them to understand what people are actually using their service. So let's go with business owner in this one. What's your company size? Well, 1 to 49. How familiar are you with automation? We can also skip this question for later, as well as these ones. Now, we can even pick apps that we are using, so Zapier is able to recommend us templates for later use. Let's pick some. So I use Gmail, Google Calendar, and Google Drive. Maybe I also use Notion, Calendly, and Stripe. And for project management, I use Asana. I also use YouTube and ChatGPT. Maybe I also post on Instagram and want to automate postings. And last but not least, let's add ConvertKit into the mix. And let's click continue. So based on our goals, here's a step to get started. I think it is really nice. So let's not try it yet. Let's finish the setup first and then have a look at the zaps. All right. As you can see, we can upgrade anytime, but I think the free trial works well. Okay, so welcome to Zapier. We've made it. A pretty nice feature with Zapier is that you can, let's close the sidebar first to make it more simple. You can automate your tasks, but you can also automate the building of the so-called zaps. So a zap is basically the trigger and then action automation that you program in quotation marks. And this AI helps you to do that for you. So you just write what you want to do. For example, I want to automate every time I get an email with a calendar link to book this automatically in my Google work calendar, for example. And then you send it and it works. But first of all, let's have a look at the settings as always. So up here, go on your profile icon and click on settings. So right here, of course, you have settings. These are optional. But yeah, let's go on with email notifications. I'm personally a huge fan of turning all email notifications off because I don't like to get notified by anything or anyone. So it's up to personal preference. Now, right here we have advanced settings where you can secure your account through two-factor authentication. It's also optional. I will just leave it as is, but this is an option you might consider if you want to make your account double secure. Now, data management, here you can export or delete all of your data. Nice to know that this is possible. Here you can manage your billings and your usage. So on the free plan, right now we are on the professional trial plan. This always happens when you create a new account. But you can have a limited amount of repetitions depending on your plan. So for example, let's stick with the example I just gave you, where when you get a new email with a calendar invite for a meeting, you want to book that meeting automatically in your calendar to save you a couple of seconds every time doing that manually. And each of these actions, so trigger and then response after that, counts as a task. And in this plan right now, we could have 1,000 tasks per month. So potentially, if we only use this one single zap, we could book exactly 1,000 meetings automatically in our calendar. Okay. And then here, members and audit log is logged because we are not yet in need of these options. All right, so now let's have a look at the side panel. Here is again the same tasks that we can run, and Zaps right now on the free plan says unlimited, but this essentially means how many Zaps, so how many different automations you can have active and up and running at the same time. Of course, unlimited at the trial plan, but on the free plan, it's 3 most of the time. But 3 as a beginner are probably enough. Okay, so let's have a look at Zaps. This is where it gets really interesting. So Zaps is the automation Zapier uses, and you can organize them in different folders. If you click here, you can either create a new Zap or a new folder. Let's create a new folder first. Let's call it tutorial folder. And in this tutorial folder, we can now create our Zaps. So there are no Zaps in this folder. So let's create our first Zap. And creating a Zap is pretty basic. As you can see with the free plan, you have a trigger and an action. This is called a 2-step Zap because you just have step 1 and step 2, as suggested by the numbering system. And as a beginner tutorial, I also want to stick to 2-step Zaps, but you can get complicated and really fancy with the setup if you want to. So you can also, as I said, the AI, you can use this text window to like write what you want to do as a Zap, and it works automatically. But first of all, let's give our Zap a title. Let's call it tutorial Zap. Okay. Here on the sidebar you have many different options, but essentially it boils down to these 2 buttons, and how it works is pretty simple. So every Zap works with a trigger, an event that starts your Zap, and then an action. So what should then happen after the Zap is started? And of course you can add multiple sections or multiple different other actions that follow after the trigger. But let's start with the trigger first. So here you can see we have many potential triggers. And well, what do we want to automate? So maybe we want to automate that every week we create a new folder in our Google Drive, because this is the folder where we maybe save the weekly numbers of revenue, for example. For this option, we can use one of the 20 plus built-in tools from Zapier. In this case, we use the schedule tool. Start the Zap every hour, day, week, or month. So let's click on this as a trigger. And now we have already used as a trigger the schedule by Zapier function. So now we simply click through this event required. Okay, so when do we want to run this? Let's say every week. We want to run this every week. Click on continue. Now, let's say we want to run this every Monday. So every first day of the week. And only on Mondays. So here you could potentially choose more days. So we want to leave it on just Monday. Time of the day? Well, let's run it on 12 a.m. Click continue. And with every Zap and every like simple and single step you create, you first want to test it before you confirm that it works. So this is essentially what Zapier is always suggesting, and it's mandatory. So you can see right here, we haven't tested this trigger yet. So let's test it. We click, it runs, and now it populates example data that it works. So right now we have an example record. We continue with the selected record and say, okay, this test worked. Let's get on. So now let's choose Google Drive, because we want to create a Google Drive folder every week on Monday at 12 a.m. So now we choose Google Drive. Now we can create or choose one of these many events. And this works with hundreds of different softwares. You choose the software after a trigger and then have lots of options what you can potentially create with Zapier. And this allows you to automate many things. And now if you think one step further with a paid plan, you could also add more steps. So we don't then have to maybe create even the report, but the report is created automatically based from data of maybe our sales database. it's saved in a maybe Google spreadsheet, and then this Google spreadsheet is automatically named after the weekday and like the date it was created, and gets then automatically saved to this Google Drive folder we now create. So you can get really, really fancy with these steps and zaps and save lots of time in the process of automating like recurring work that you face. And that is delegatable work. So you delegate your work to technology, and I think this is great. So let's create a folder every week on Monday 12 a.m. Now, the single step that is left is that you need to, of course, log into said service so Zapier knows to which account they should create this folder to. So I'm going to do it right now, and then I will see you back. So now I've logged in successfully. You can always see your progress right in the top right corner here. And let's click on continue. So now I can choose a drive folder. So for example, my personal Google Drive. A parent folder, I could either create one or just leave as is. And now I can choose a folder name. So what do I want this folder to be? And the great thing again with Zapier is that you don't need to hard name anything. So you can either, of course, call it test folder, but then every week a folder called test folder is created, and you soon will lose oversight of all of these folders. So why not go with something like the pretty date, where we always have the folder name set as the date of when the folder is created. Maybe let's call it finance report. So we can filter by finance report, and we then get only shown all of the finance reports, but also only filtered by day. So maybe we want also just the finance reports of March in this year. Then we can filter by that. Or we only want all of the finance reports in 2024. So this works great. Let's continue. And now again, we test this Zap. So let's click on test step. And now you can see the Zap runs. If it has run completely, I will show you in a second. But as suggested by Zapier and by this tick in the top right corner, it worked. So the last step we need to take is to publish the Zap. So basically turn it on right here. So let's click on publish. The Zap gets published and is now turned on and live, which means the Zap will now run every time we have this trigger as a true condition. So every Monday, 12 a.m., this Zap will run. Okay, so let's get back. Now we can see in our tutorial folder, if we click again on Zaps, there should be our tutorial Zap in our tutorial folder. And you can create unlimited Zaps in this plan, also multi-step Zaps, but on the free plan, you can only create 3 Zaps and they are 2-step. So last but not least, I want to show you the Drive folder that got just created by Zapier, and then I think you are set to get started with Zapier right away. And as you can see in my Drive, there was just created a finance report called with our date. Of course, right now it is not Monday because Zapier won't wait until next Monday to test this folder for you in this specific example. It will always use the date and time of right now when you run this test. But essentially, when the test runs, it is validated that it works, and this means it works anytime. So if it's Monday, Tuesday, or 10 a.m., 10 p.m., whatever, it works. So we now just created this folder completely automatically, and now it gets recreated every single week with the actual name, so date, and then our fixed ending name of finance report forever, basically. Isn't that great? So now I prompt you to get experimentative and try stuff, try Zaps, use the apps that you commonly use and try to build Zaps around them, try to automate, come up with things and tasks that you do manually multiple times per day, week and month, or even year, and then try to find apps and software solutions to connect them in Zapier and automate these boring tasks that are chores to you.